Live from KSAT 12. The 6 o'clock news starts right now.
A muddy puddle may be what led to a deadly accident today.
San Antonio police say a man carrying a gun, which went off accidentally when he slipped on soggy ground. Katrina Weber shows us what one neighbor says she did to try to save him.
A gun and garbage add up to a puzzling combination for San Antonio police. They roped up that scene at the Stratton Park Apartments, just steps from where they found a wounded man around 6 this morning.
I saw him over here. He was yelling for help. So me and my brother, we came out. We were doing CPR on him.
Brianna Padilla didn't know what to think at first, but she and her brother realized their neighbor was hurt. Later, they found out he had been shot.
And that's when we just saw blood on his shirt. And he just wasn't responding.
Police describe what happened at the apartments on Starcrest near Jones Maltzberger as a freak accident. They say the 58-year-old man appeared to be taking out his trash while also carrying a gun and accidentally shot himself. Police believe the soggy ground here may have had a lot to do with what happened, that the man was heading down the hill when he slipped in all the water and mud. Investigators believe when he lost his balance, the gun also fell and went off. The man was wounded in his chest and died at a hospital. After questioning family and neighbors, police determined that no one else was to blame, that it was just a bizarre turn of events ending with death. Katrina Weber, KSAT 12 News.
It's hard to believe. Now, with the help of KSAT Investigates, we took a look at how many people have been killed or injured in accidental shootings over the last year. These numbers are from the Gun Violence Archive. Take a look here. 39 people were killed in accidental shootings across Texas from June of 2023 through June of 2024. Looking at just San Antonio, 4 people died in accidental shootings during that same time period. 97 people in Texas were injured in accidental shootings from last June through this June. 17 of those injuries happened here in San Antonio.
It was a party inside a newly built home that nobody had moved into yet, so partygoers did. If you know something about Sunday's deadly shooting outside a house party in far west Bexar County, the sheriff's office wants to hear from you tonight. Sharing a tip now is as scanning the QR code on your screen right there. Deputies are looking for information leading to an arrest in the death of 17-year-old Landon Reyes. That's his picture you just saw. He was shot at a party on Rock Mill Dam early Sunday morning. Again, that's in far west Bexar County.
Now, if you scan that QR code, it will take you to this page where you can share any information that you have. You can give your name or you can remain anonymous. But if you do that, it will still ask you for your phone number. But the Bexar County Sheriff's Office says that your number will be deleted after that text message is sent.
A mother accused of taking part in the death of her 5-year-old son more than 3 years ago, today being sentenced to 15 years in prison. This is Nicole Agular. She got 15 years per a plea deal for testifying against her ex-boyfriend, Daniel Garcia. Garcia convicted in May of abusing Aguilar's son, 5-year-old Dominic Aguilar Acevedo. That led to his death in July of 2021. The couple then left Dominic's body in a ravine along a hillside in Colorado. Today, the judge sentencing Aguilar did not hold back on what she thought.
You have earned every single day of the 15 years that you plea bargained for. The right thing to do was the first time that he laid hands on your son to stop him.
The case not over yet. Garcia will be back in court next week for his sentencing. He's the boyfriend. He's facing 5 to 99 years or life in prison.
Meredith Portillo, the Bexar County Sheriff's deputy killed in a crash on I-37 more than 2 weeks ago, was laid to rest today. Her family, friends, and fellow deputies remembering her during a celebration of life service. They describe Portillo as motivated, a woman of hope, love, and faith with a heart for sharing. She'd been with the sheriff's office for less than a year, but Sheriff Javier Salazar says she made a lasting impression at the agency and even with inmates. He says because of how she served this community during her brief career, she is a hero who will be remembered.
The Veep stakes are over. The stage is now set for the presidential election. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz joining Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee for VP. The duo debuted this evening at a rally in Philadelphia after Harris picked Walz over Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. The pair will campaign in several more key battleground states over the next few days. The plans for a new baseball stadium for the Missions are coming together, even though a new stadium may be at least 4 years away.
Yeah, we're learning more about those plans. It would be located in the San Pedro Creek Culture Park area on the west side of downtown, not far from Fox Tech High School. County Judge Peter Sakai and Mayor Ron Nierenberg each gave their blessing and notified Major League Baseball of the intent to move the Missions downtown. In a letter dated July 22nd, the pair explained their plans to build a first-class baseball stadium with at least 4,500 fixed seats and a capacity of 8,000 people. The plan is for it to be a multi-purpose venue to host different kinds of events in downtown San Antonio.
Now, this plan still needs to be finalized by City Council and the Bexar County Commissioners Court, but both Judge Sakai and Mayor Nierenberg added at the end of their letter that a decision should be made this fall.
All right, let's turn to the forecast. Look at all those high numbers behind you. A couple triple digits, Adam.
Yep. Port SA, Kelly Field, 100 degrees, and that's the high temperature. Stinson on the south side, triple digits officially, and same with JBSA Randolph, Converse, 100 degrees. Officially at San Antonio International, not triple digits, but 99. We will be adding up the triple digit days as we go through the rest of this week, but nothing compared to what we had to last year or even the summer before. Rain, a little smidge of hope, but not much. A lot more of Debbie and its rainfall and these astounding totals and how much more they'll get in just a bit.
All right, thanks, Adam. Let's take a look at a traffic backup that's been going on at least for the last hour. We've been watching this slow-going traffic here at US 90 and Medio Creek since about 5 o'clock. Traffic is moving. It's just at a crawl, as you can see, definitely holding things up there. Taking a look around, though, looks like this view is moving a little bit better here, so something to be aware of along Highway 90.
And now to a fixture of downtown traffic. The horse-drawn carriages in downtown have become a bigger conversation over the last few months. The tourist-centered business operates on busy streets downtown almost nightly.
But a lot of people that live in San Antonio may be starting to sour on these carriages. So what do you think? We want to know, and so does the city.
You can vote in our poll right now. Just scan the QR code on the bottom corner of your screen to vote. Just head to ksat.com/poll to sound off should the city ban horse-drawn carriages. We want to hear from you. After 11 bargaining sessions, still no deal between the city of San Antonio and the San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association. Well, now the city's going into a budget session with a big question mark in the place of its second biggest contract. Garrett Berger tells us how this could have a domino effect on the rest of the city budget.
When city staff unveils a proposed budget on August 15th, part of the fire budget will be a best guess.
We will be making those final decisions in the next few days.
We don't know exactly how far apart the city and fire union are now, but based on a recent city estimate, the difference would be tens of millions of dollars over the course of a 3-year contract. And with the city already expecting a budget deficit, every bit will matter.
As you mentioned, is one of those items that we don't have certainty yet. But that is something that we will be discussing as part of the budget proposal next week.
Wherever the two sides end up, the contract will have fixed costs the city has to pay. And that affects how much it can spend on libraries, human services, parks, and other city programs. The city's lead negotiator and deputy city manager wouldn't go into detail on how much having that question up in the air handicaps them.
As you know, we have roughly about 30 days before the budget is adopted and final. So we will continue to meet with the association with the goal of having something final by then.
Pay is the biggest hurdle. Here's a graph showing how each side's proposals so far would affect the base wages of the lowest ranking firefighters. The union proposals in red are still much steeper than what the city proposals in blue have been. And those brightest colors toward the middle are the latest from each side. And they're still a ways apart.
I really don't feel that we need to come down anymore.
Even with the city missing its own goal for getting a contract done, Union President Joe Jones isn't sure the city's feeling any extra heat.
We've seen stretches over a month where we didn't even meet. So I don't know that external pressure is really encouraging anybody to do anything in particular at this point.
It's not clear yet if the union might exert pressure of its own. During a fight over the past contract in 2018, previous union leadership led a campaign to change the city charter, including putting a cap on the city manager's pay and tenure. A plan to undo that change is likely to go onto the November ballot. But Jones doesn't know if the union will weigh in.
So the conversations are being had. I'm not going to be deceptive here. But as far as if a decision has been made, we have not made any decisions with regard to that.
The two sides will meet again on August 23rd. The city council is expected to pass a budget September 19th. Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
An administrator at Lavernia Independent School District remained on the payroll for months after being ordered to no longer show up for work.
It is a serious issue when the district is essentially giving away public monies and receiving nothing in return.
Lavernia's superintendent declined a request to be interviewed about the decision to continue paying Duffick while on leave for well over 4 months. In an interview with KSAT in the fall of 2020, Cohn told us, quote, "Whether we like it or not, we have to tell the story for what it is and be completely honest, whether it's about finances or what a teacher did or what a superintendent did. It's about communicating."
Right now, you can scan the QR code on your screen to read KSAT Investigate's full investigation into Lavernia ISD. You can watch that story tonight on the Night Beat at 10. You can also find the story at KSAT.com. Last year, a new youth program debuted at Haven for Hope, welcoming teens and young adults who were alone and needed help. And the program so far has proven to be a success. We'll show you.
Remember yesterday's disappointment on the stock market? Well, coming up at 6:30, we're going to sit down with a local financial analyst to find out what yesterday's results mean for your money, its future, and the economy as a whole. How should we deal with stock market whiplash? KSAT Q&A starts at 6:30. We'll be right back.
Pride, community, and support. That's what teenagers and young adults stand to gain when they show up to Haven for Hope alone.
Yeah, they've lost so much. The Haven's new youth program, less than a year old, but as Courtney Friedman learned from those living there, it's proven to be a success.
I ended up here because I ran out of money. I slept under a restaurant.
20-year-old Kyle Young came to Haven for Hope for the basics.
I was starving.
But he stayed for the support. 2 months ago, he was placed in the new youth program for people ages 18 to 24.
They accepted resources at the shelter, graduated in May, and have bright futures ahead of them.
It's a full circle. We were at Haven a little over a year ago, interviewing students who finished high school while living at the shelter. At that point, the youth center was still in the works. Now, a year later, here we are in the common room. On this side of the campus, individual dorm rooms around the corner house 28 people. On the other side, a communal dorm with space for 24 people.
This room is right next to the common room. That's how they bring the resources to them. They can do counseling here, case management, or even pick up some hygiene items.
But most importantly, they're among peers that they can relate to, proof that they're not alone.
We started the program, and through word of mouth, young adults started hearing about it and coming here, where now we are at capacity.
Senior Director of Case Management, Jesse Burden, says the wait list is only a couple weeks at most, but it shows the program is working. Before the youth program, only 10% of young adults at Haven left with housing. Now that number has nearly tripled to 26%. There are workforce and skills classes. Clients are staying in the program longer, and more of them are getting GEDs or diplomas.
We can help them obtain the things like birth certificates, which can be a particular challenge.
Right now, Young is working to get an ID.
Even though it's still a supportive environment, you still got to carve your own path.
He already has an education, so next he'll get a job and will be on the priority list for housing.
For homeless and seeing this, you can't do it yourself. Come and find some help.
Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
Tropical storm Debbie is here, and it looks like she is wearing out her welcome.
Chaos hovering over the Carolinas and Georgia this evening. Tropical storm Debbie stalling, and floods are flourishing in low-lying areas up and down the southeastern Atlantic coast. Inland, people in parts of Georgia and South Carolina dealing with tornadoes. Tornado warnings, at least one touching down in rural South Carolina overnight.
Yeah, 6 people have now died in the storm's destruction so far, and some models show that Debbie could slowly move back into the ocean, re-strengthen, and then hit the coast again later on this week. Adam, you thought this was going to be a big story and a huge rainmaker for that part of the country.
Yeah, it's going to become a bigger story just because of the historic flooding and the historic rainfall amounts they're already seeing and will continue to get. We'll take a look at the latest on Tropical Storm Debbie here. And it has pushed back out just almost back over the Atlantic. And over the coming days, it's expected to make that turn back over the water and in turn even re-strengthen a little bit. Don't think about winds when you think about this system. Think about rain. Already 12 to 17 inches of rainfall in parts of coastal Georgia and coastal South Carolina. You look at the rainfall estimates from Doppler radar. Near Pembroke, 14.1. You get closer to Charleston and just west of Charleston, about 16 inches of rain and more to come. That's the thing. The rainfall potential basically now through Friday is upwards of 10 inches from basically just north of Charleston all the way to the North Carolina coast there. Now, keep in mind, they've already had 15, 16 inches of rain in some of those areas, and they're going to add about another 10 or more in that time frame. My cousin lives in Savannah, Georgia. I was chatting with him earlier today, and the retention pond behind his back fence went from the typical 20 feet away from the fence to 5 feet away, and it's still climbing. Real quick look at the tropics, pretty quiet out there. A little bit of thunderstorm activity just north of South America and the Caribbean. There's a 20% chance that could turn into our next tropical system. But right now, we think odds are pretty low on that actually pulling through and turning into anything. All right, here's a look at our recap of our day today. So close. 99, our high temperature. Average is 97, which is the warmest average all year. So climatologically speaking, our hottest point of the year is right now in August. But our count remains at 12 triple-digit days so far this year. By this time last year, we had 41. And this time 2 summers ago, we had 56, so clearly not on pace. July was good to us, especially with the rainfall toward the end of July. That always keeps temperatures down, but we're back to triple digits, expecting 102 Wednesday, Thursday, even as warm as 103 by Friday. And then we get into the weekend and next week still right near 100. Upper level heat high, the big blue H, it's centered just to the north of us, but still influencing our weather. And it's going to be the main driving force going forward, as it often is this time of year. Again, we were fortunate back in late July to get a break from that upper level high. And it still looks like we'll have an open door for the potential of a little bit of energy and a weak boundary to drop in to south central Texas this weekend. I'm losing confidence in our rain chances. I mean, okay, they were at only 20% in the first place, but now I think it's even more of a long shot, unfortunately. 79 at 7 a.m. tomorrow, 94 at noon, by 5 o'clock, 102, but feeling like about 103, 104 when you factor in the humidity. And not much of a breeze again tomorrow, just light and variable at about 3 to 8 miles per hour. High temperature in Rio Medina, 103, Bulverde triple digits even, 102 in Converse and Stinson on the south side, making it to 103. Again, a 10, maybe 20% chance of showers Saturday, Sunday. That's one thing we're watching, but overall, it's just back to the quiet summertime weather pattern that we're so accustomed to. And you know what? Coming up at 6:45, you may not have noticed, but I think we'll talk about my wardrobe malfunction I had today, and we can address this situation.
Yeah.
And the trend setting that I'm doing now too.
We'll button it up.
Or maybe we won't.
Maybe we won't.
Thanks, Adam.
All right, turning to sports right now. The Texans in Ohio, and they're finding some benefits from practicing away from home.
Yeah, first and foremost, it's much cooler up there than it is out in Houston. So when it comes to playing your ones in the preseason, some coaches don't, but D'Amico Ryans plans to play his starters against the Steelers, and he's got a good reason why. And in college football, Incarnate Word's very own Devin Grant is all about promoting mental health coming up.
As a coach, you want to see your team grow a tighter bond when you're on the road for a week, and that's what our guys are doing.
The Texans bonding on the road makes head coach D'Amico Ryans very happy in big board sports. The Houston Texans are enjoying the cooler temperatures in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, where they are holding training camp this week as they get ready to play at the Pittsburgh Steelers Friday night at 6. Last Thursday in the Texans preseason opener, we saw a lot of backups play, but this week that will change when the starters on offense and defense will get some game reps against the Steelers. Head coach D'Amico Ryans explained why his ones will see some action in Pittsburgh.
When it comes to the snaps and preseason thing, everybody's trying to figure out. Some teams don't play starters, some play. I truly believe in that a guy needs to get reps in a preseason game, right? We don't go to the ground, as you see, the way we practice. We try to keep guys up and be as safe as possible in practice. I think everybody needs that opportunity to go to the ground a couple times in the game to just get up, dust yourself off, and know you're good, right? And I'm okay. Like, I can't go to the ground and get up, so you just have to go through and play live reps of football before live action comes in September. So you'll see our ones go out and get reps this week versus Pittsburgh.
And the Texans will see Judson X to Marvin Leal, who's in his third season with the Steelers. For the Incarnate Word football program, these past few days of training camp have been grueling but important. The team is getting closer through the bonding of hard hitting and passing a water bottle. But our Nick Mantis found out that one player has an important message with the brand he created.
Well, we get an opportunity to speak with players after practice. It's always a good time to get to learn about them as a person more than just the X's and O's or how are you feeling in the first couple of days of practice. And one of the players who is from right here in San Antonio has a special brand with an even deeper purpose.
Oh yeah, Devin Grant. This is his brand. It's about mental health and being okay when you're by yourself, isolated. Devin is a rock star, man. He's a San Antonio guy. He's from Antonian High School, which is huge for our program. And we're going to continue to bring San Antonio's guys back into the fold, and we're going to continue to support our guys on and off the field. So
I just, growing up, like, I just didn't really have the support coming from like a father figure, and just like I learned everything kind of by myself. Like, I just learned things that normally like your father would teach you, but I just learned by myself, and I feel like I turned out okay. So it's just pushing the notion of like when you're by yourself and you feel alone, that like you can take that time to reflect and you can grow as a person. You can learn things by yourself more than like someone telling you something. I wanted to parenthesize the I to just make sure it's everyone has a different story. Everyone thinks that isolated is different and has a different meaning for it. So just kind of like the parentheses, like whoever's wearing it is that their own definition for it. So.
Well, we'll already get a sense of this team is never going to feel isolated this season. These Cardinals seem like they maybe are a little bit stronger, have a little bit more of camaraderie entering this upcoming season. From Incarnate Word, Nick Mantis, KSAT 12 Sports.
Thank you, Nick. All right, the Little League Baseball Southwest Regional Championship game between Bernie and Louisiana is underway. There's no score early on. We'll have highlights for you on the Night Beat.
Yeah, that determines who goes to the Little League World Series.
It does from that region.
All right, highlights on the Night Beat.
Yep.
Thanks, Larry.
Steve, you said it earlier, stock market whiplash between yesterday and today. So what does that mean for you at home? We're going to talk about that in our KSAT Q&A coming up next.
What to make of this stock market? Yesterday, a big fall. Today, we get some of it back. Jim Jackson is the co-chief investment officer of Victory Income Investors. He joins us live now in studio. Jim, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, first off, I want to know how many calls did you get on Monday, and did it taper off today?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Less today. I think it's understandable, right? Anytime you see a stock market decline like we saw on Monday, which really followed on a rough day on Friday, people are concerned. That is natural.
Yeah.
And they always want to reach out and try to understand what is going on.
What are you telling them?
Well, I think the first thing that we want people to understand is that time in the market is much more important than timing the market. Uncertainty is out there every single day. The sort of market drawdown that we've seen is normal. So if you look over since 1928, every single year has had a market drawdown. So it is normal for it to happen. We think it's important for investors to focus on having a plan, that it's consistent with their goals and their risk tolerance, so that they have the confidence to stay in the market when we see stocks draw down like we saw on Friday and Monday.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened today to get us to this rebound point? Can you kind of put that in perspective for us?
Sure. Well, I think I have to dial it back a little bit to Friday when we really started to see the market sell off. So there's a lot of things that drive it. There really is no one reason. It's really a combination of things. But one of the things on Friday morning is a jobs report came out. It was weaker than expected. Now, it doesn't mean it was bad, because the job market is still growing. It was just growing slower than the market expected. So the market really started to price in the slower economic growth that really we have started to see. Now, once that happens, traders start to reassess how we price various things in the market. So, and they combine onto that, I'm sure most folks have seen this, or some folks have seen this. There was a trade in Japan that was sort of unwound that really caused that market to trade off as well. So there were a lot of things that combined into it. The market sold off on Friday, sold off again on Monday. And really, when you come in today, you take another assessment. Is this overdone? Is the panic that sort of set in overdone? And I think that's what we saw today. So if you just think about when I mentioned time in the market is more important than timing the market, market was down 3% yesterday, up today over 1%.
Obviously, this affects a lot of different things. People's savings, people's 401k, all of these different things, people's investments. But when you look at the broader picture, what we saw over the last 3 days, is it going to have an impact on whether the Fed decides to drop interest rates to make buying a house or a car cheaper? Are you looking towards that in the next month or so?
Sure, I think it makes it more likely. So what the Fed is looking to accomplish is they're looking to bring down inflation close to their target, which they're very close to doing. And they want to do that without having a large impact on the labor market. So I think what the market is starting to price in is that the Fed is almost certainly going to cut in September. Now, the market has gotten this wrong many, many times.
Yeah.
But right now, the market is pricing in the Fed cutting at their next meeting. And I think that's ultimately a positive for someone that's looking to buy a house, looking to take out an auto loan. Things
Yeah,
like
and I think that that's something that we want to make sure we talk about here. Whether you're in the stock market or not, you know, those interest rates have an impact on a lot of people. So for people at home who may not be incredibly involved in keeping track of stocks and things like that, what does that mean for the average pocketbook, what we've seen since Friday?
So I think for the average pocketbook, what we've seen since Friday, the answer, frankly, is not a whole lot. I think what they can probably expect is if the market expectations actually occur and the Fed cuts in September, they will see lower rates on their savings accounts, but they'll also see lower rates on auto loans and home loans.
And credit cards.
That's a good
credit
thing.
cards,
You know,
possibly as well.
Yeah.
Not a lot. That's a good thing, given the panic that we saw yesterday.
Yes, I think that the Fed is really guided towards a 25 basis point cut, which is 0.25%. But it could be, of course, larger than that, but that's where they've guided towards at this point.
There have been a lot of people that have been talking about the possibility of a recession. You heard that yesterday. Inflation was up so much. Inflation's coming down. I mean, how are you balancing all of this? I mean, is this kind of the tricky part of the so-called soft landing when it comes to our economy?
Yes, I think there's very little value in our view to predict with certainty that something is going to happen or not happen.
Yeah.
So really, I think what we've seen over the last few days is potentially the odds of a recession occurring have gone up, but probably not by that much. And they started out fairly low as well. So it's one of those things where the market panics, prices sell off, the market recovers today, and really it's taking the opportunity to look through the short-term noise, understand that over the longer term, the economy grows. Over the longer term, staying in the market is more important than trying to time the market. And we try to take that sort of view as sort of stepping back, trying to, ignore the short-term noise and focus on the long term.
I want to ask you one more question because we're running out of time. And this is a historic question here. Historically, how does the stock market do in a presidential year?
Well, let me step back on that one too, because I think historically,
is there a trend historically?
Historically, the market does well in
election years.
Yeah. So, but historically, the market averages pretty well every year.
Yeah.
Right. So I think what you don't want to get caught up into is, well, depending on who's in office, this is what the market's going to do. I'm going to sell if this person wins. I'm going to buy if this person wins. History will tell you to stay in the market because no matter who wins, which party holds office, what really drives the stock market over time is corporate earnings. And those have pretty persistently grown over very long periods of time.
Yeah, and that's the question. It wasn't so much about which candidate wins, but just during an election year, does the stock market seem to do about a little better than average?
The historical data that I've seen is that, yes, that would be true.
Yeah. Overall, it sounds like market panicked, but people at home should not be doing the same.
Yes, that is accurate.
Yeah, okay.
I like what you said. It's your time in the market. It's not about timing the market.
Absolutely.
That's great advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jim Jackson, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, by the way, Victory Income Investors is who Jim works with.
We'll be right back.
The Vice President Kamala Harris actually announcing Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will be her running mate, challenging former President Donald Trump and Senator J.D. Vance.
The pair introduced themselves to voters in Philadelphia today before then heading off to other swing states around the country. ABC's Jay O'Brien has that story.
Vice President Kamala Harris announcing her VP pick, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
I coached football and taught social studies for 20 years.
Introducing himself to the nation in a new video posted on X.
Respect, compromise, service to country. And so when I went into government, that's what I carried with me.
The choice made at a rapid speed in the 2 weeks since President Biden dropped out, praised by a cross-section of the Democratic Party, from progressives to moderates.
She had someone in Tim Walz that, one, she trusted, two, that she saw as someone that's going to bring something else to this ticket in a big way, and that is Midwest.
President Biden calling both Harris and Walz today. The vice president, sources familiar with the decision tell ABC News, drawn to Walz's Midwestern roots, his executive experience as governor, and his background, a former teacher, longtime member of the Army National Guard, and congressman with a history of supporting blue-collar issues. Walz, also known for his plain-spoken campaign style, recently labeling President Trump and his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, as weird.
You do not need your elected officials to give you a sermon, and these guys are weird on how they frame it.
The Trump campaign calling Walz dangerously liberal. The former president posting simply "thank you" on social media. Vance holding his own campaign event in Philadelphia, reacting to his new opponent.
But I think that what Tim Walz's selection says is that Kamala Harris has bent the knee to the far left of her party, which is what she always does.
The Harris campaign expected to use Walz to appeal to Rust Belt voters in must-win states like Michigan and Wisconsin. After that Philadelphia rally, Harris and Walz expected to blitz 6 more battleground states in 5 days. Jay O'Brien, ABC News, Washington.
KSAT is doing something different this election season. We're going to communities all over South Texas and hearing from real people, voters, on both sides about what issues matter most to them and why. It's real conversation without the rhetoric. Our first episode took us to Uvalde. Scan this QR code to watch that and stay on the lookout for our next edition of Your Voice South Texas. That's coming up tomorrow.
Let's go outside right now, and we are in a pattern where triple-digit days will not be perhaps as rare as they've been for the rest of this summer.
Look at that little one lonely cloud out there.
I know, right?
Oh, and we got to talk about buttons.
We do need to talk about buttons. We're going to get to the buttons in a little bit. We're trend setting. It's almost time for the sleeveless suit, too, when we get into the heat.
No.
'It's on social media from last year. 98. Our high temperature today was 99 officially at the airport. We did make it to triple digits in many other locations. It's warm as 106 in Carrizo Springs. We'll talk about the triple digit heat and our fashion statement today, along with some local video from the rainfall amounts and a good comparison from Debbie in just a bit.
Okay, no to the sleeveless suit.
Come on, Myra.
We've seen a sleeveless sweater. That comes out at Christmas time. I was going to say,
we had the sleeveless Christmas sweater. I remember that.
That's an annual tradition.
Yeah, I'm okay actually with the sleeveless Christmas sweater. It's a look.
It is a look.
The suit, I can't get behind that. I'm sorry.
It gets warm in our Christmas party. Okay. What can I say?
I know. I'm talking about the suit.
I know. Okay. So a little wardrobe malfunction. Lost a button earlier, because I'm constantly buttoning and unbuttoning, and typically guys just button the top button of their suit. I'm starting a new trend. Bottom button only. Who's with me? Anybody with me?
Are you saying that the button came off because of overuse?
Overuse. Look, the thread got very
I just
worn
wanted to make
down.
sure. I wanted to make sure I was understanding correctly. Because at 5 o'clock you said too much ice cream.
Yeah, I said I need to cut
don't
my
believe
carbs.
I don't
Probably cut
believe
my
that.
carbs. I just love the Mixla tortillas from HEB. They're so good.
That's
right. Are they? My parents always get stacks of them and bring them home with them back to Minnesota. It's great.
What do you like too? The Texas Dippers?
Texas Dippers are good. They're solid. Solid. Okay, now let's get to this weather here, and I want to show you. Okay, this is my cousin's backyard in Savannah, Georgia, where they're seeing all the heavy rain from Debbie. That's actually his neighbor's backyard across the retention pond. But notice that white pole, okay? That white pole right there in the middle. Oops, hold on. There we go. Okay, that pole, and this is after the rain began. Before the rain, right? After the rain. You see the pole's almost covered, whereas before the rain, the water wasn't even up to the pole. And now it actually looks like the pole is submerged across the way, to be honest with you. But usually that retention pond is about 20 feet from his back fence there, and now it's 5 feet from the back fence. So just give you an idea of, this is a low-lying area. It's slow to drain, and now he's got to watch for the gators coming up on the lawn. Anyway, you look at the rainfall accumulations, and estimates have been upwards of 15, 16 inches in some locations, from coastal Georgia all the way up into coastal South Carolina as well. And we're going to add to it. But you look at the rainfall totals, even in Florida from a few days ago when this made landfall, over the span of a few days, it picked up over 14 inches. And I did see a few rain gauge reports between Tallahassee and Gainesville of 22 inches of rain just south of I-10. Another 10 or more inches likely parts of South and North Carolina. As we often see with these tropical systems, they can become very problematic when they slow down or they stall. Harvey was an example of that. If Harvey was just moving through, wouldn't have been as problematic, but it stalled and sat, and it's moving but barely drifting. We could use more rain around here, but we have had improvements in our drought monitor. This is updated last Thursday, and we still have an area of extreme drought, but it's shrunken a little bit, and we chipped away at it. Unfortunately, I think we'll just fall back into more drought with the kind of weather pattern we're getting into. It's us in West Texas that make up most of the drought in Texas. Only about a 10% chance of a shower or two as we get into the upcoming weekend. We're talking a 10 to, my clicker's upside down, wrong button. It's going backwards, not forward. Instead of fast forward, it's fast backward. Okay.
It's all about buttons today. It's all about buttons.
Hashtag Buttongate here at KSAT. All right, triple digits. Get used to it for now.
Yeah, that button also probably broke from overuse.
It's worn down.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk about pretzel perfume in the Buzz.
In the Buzz today, there's a new bakery in Dallas that's all about student empowerment. It's operated inside the Notre Dame School. That's a special needs Catholic school, and it is called Happy Flower.
I like that. The school is all about empowering their students to become as independent as possible, and this small club turned to business doing just that. More than 20 students involved now. They're currently taking online orders, but they have hopes of opening up a storefront in the future.
That's awesome.
Happy Flower. A Manchester, New Hampshire woman found something unexpected inside her old barn house, a treasure trove of old baseball cards. Tony Pappas immediately recognized a Ted Williams rookie card and found the collection must have belonged to her late husband, Billy Pappas, who's in the New Hampshire Baseball Hall of Fame himself.
Oh, cool. The cards are thought to be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Pappas says if she sells the cards, she'll likely donate the proceeds to a sports scholarship that she has in her husband's name at University of New Hampshire.
All found in a barn.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
All right, don't tie yourself in mental knots. Wondering why? Just go with it. Auntie Annie's is launching a perfume inspired by its pretzels. The scent is called Need.
It is infused.
K-N-E-A-D.
It's infused with notes of buttery dough, salt, a hint of sweetness. The pretzel maker says each spritz evokes the experience of passing by an Auntie Anne's store and breathing in that nostalgic aroma at the mall food court.
You know what?
Perhaps the airport.
Buttery dough, salt, and a hint of sweetness.
Yeah.
Could be describing Adam Caskey.
I was just going to say, bring it I'm waiting for it. Yeah, well, you'd be the Cinnabon scent, okay?
Okay.
Oh, we do need a Cinnabon.
Big and gooey.
Cinnabon. I do need that.
Thanks for watching the news at 6.
See you on the Night Beat at 10.